I'm gonna jump in for Shruti. I think we're having a little bit of a hard time hearing her talk, but that was a beautiful introduction, David. Thank you so much. Shruti, how are you doing today? Hi.
Hi, Jaden,
Okay, great.
and welcome. I see from Carolyn's sign that it's day 1151. Wow. So welcome everyone. Hi, Kevin. Hi, Mabel and Abe. Hi, Harriet. And welcome, Tom in Nebraska, and Delhi, and Pauline, and Kathy, and Sheila, and Arlene, and James, and Susan, and Anne, and Bonnie, and Carolyn, and Ruth, and Clive, and welcome Jamie Dundas, and welcome Steve, and Sarah, and Nancy, and Huda, and Susan, and Jean, and Storm, and Cricket, and Aloysius, and Annette, and Linda and Jane and Nicola Ward and Gary and Ruth and Clive and the curly tops. I see one curly top. Hi, Bronwyn and Moon and Alexander and Cat Cox and Bob and the other bear and Nancy and Jenny and Dick and Kathy and Jane and Carolyn and anyone on Facebook who's tuning in. Welcome and thank you for being here. And over to the wonderful David Roth.
Well, hi, everybody. It's good to see you again. And now that I'm looking at the screen, it's probably been, a few weeks since I've been on, but I've met some of you in person. In Seattle, I met Susan Miller and a few others of you here and there. So how wonderful to be back out on tour and meeting you in person. When someone walks up to me and says, I see you in the Daily Antidote song, my heart melts. And a hug is inevitable, even before permission is asked. There, I said it. I'm sorry. So it's very nice to meet you too, Shruti. I've listened to some of your music online, and I'm a big fan. And I'm amazed that we can have this conversation between India and Cape Cod, where I am broadcasting from the world headquarters in the basement of our house in Orleans, Massachusetts. And yes, good on you who recognized Gordon Lightfoot in the introduction, who recently passed away, one of my heroes. That was one of his rare forays into political music called Don Quixote. It was a lot of social commentary in that song, and good guessing, although there was no contest. But we have another subject today, Shruti, and I want to talk to you about what these kinds of things are like in your country. But if you want me to just plow ahead with these songs, I will. Does that sound like an idea?
I think go right ahead and then we'll have a conversation after we sing
Okay.
once.
So, everybody, I had a conversation with Joe, our beloved Joe, about this via email a couple weeks ago, and she gave me the green light on this. I'm going to do a mashup of two original songs. They both sound like they could have been written yesterday, but they're actually 6 or 7 years apart. And I think you can tell which one is the more recent. I'm going to do them back to back, and then the words are going to appear in the chat after the chorus of the second song so that you can start singing along. But I want you to take in the first song if you can. I'm an Illinois boy, and one of my heroes back then, growing up beside Steve Goodman and John Prine and Michael Smith, was a guy named Dan Fogelberg, who wrote beautiful music. And his best songs, I don't think, were the ones that were the big pop hits on the radio. They were the ones from his earliest albums where he was a folk singer, just like the man who sits before you today. So I think I'll stop yapping and just get started. Don't worry about singing along just yet. I'll tell you when it's time, and then we'll go from there. All right? Well, I used to love an old song by Dan Fogelberg, Beautiful Old Tennessee. The first line was end of October. Another was wishing you'd come home to me. It painted a picture of sleepy brown woods and a life slow and breezy and warm. there's something else brewing in old Tennessee, moving backwards in time like a storm. Death once again in the headlines. A school in Nashville, guns drawn. And now Evelyn and Hallie and William and Mike, and Cynthia and Kathleen are gone. 3 legislators joined in on the protest, right there in the chambers to see. But all that they got for their common sense outcry was shown out the door 2 of 3. So instead of a long overdue overhaul on a soul-searching path of concern, the good old folks down there in old Tennessee remind us that nothing's been learned. Oh, I used to love an old song by Dan Fogelberg, beautiful old Tennessee. Now I'll be singing a whole different tune, Waltz for the Tennessee 3. Waltz for the Tennessee 3. If anybody tells you there's no politics in guns, and that now is not the time to change the laws, just meet the gaze of those who've lost family or friends, and tell me how we justify the cause. It's well and good to send out loving thoughts and loving prayers, but by now these thoughts and prayers are not enough. All the good intentions and the cries to make a change must be followed up with action and rebuff. So change the laws, change the laws, change the contract, change the clause, change the mind, and change the cause. Change the laws, change the laws. That's chorus. Try it with me. Change the laws, change the laws, change the contract, change the clause, change the mind, and change the cause. Change the laws, change the laws. If politicians say do not politicize these things, or get caught up in the moment or in haste, oh, I say it's precisely what we need to speak about before another single life is wasted. So change the laws, change the laws, change the contract, change the clause, change the mind, and change the cause. Change the laws, change the laws. I will not be silenced, though the silencers abound. I will not be led by those opposed to common ground. If anybody tells you there's no politics in guns, they're the ones who know that money runs the show. And as long as nothing changes, they'll be happy and content, and they'll do their best to keep the status quo. So change the laws, change the laws, change the contract, change the clause, change the mind, and change the cause. Change the laws, change the laws, change the mind, and change the cause. Change the laws, change the laws.
deeply breathing in just that moment, and that wish, really putting that collective intent out there. Thank you, David, for these two songs. I live in an entirely different country, but I think this speaks to the shared struggles of most countries these days, and the fact that people in power aren't listening, the fact that we're losing our voices in what is supposed to be a democracy, at least in my country. And I'm really grateful. Do you want to share a little bit more? Do you want to speak about this?
Well, you and I, Shruti, and Jaden were talking before the feed went online. I was asking you what it's like in India for musicians to sing songs of social protest. If it's, difficult, or if you are censored, or if you put yourself in danger, or what it's like for musicians to sing out about these things in your country.
It's getting harder. It's really getting harder. I don't know if I'd be able to stand in front of those in power and sing the song something, without the fear of something happening to me. And I feel very strongly about that. I can sing obliquely, and it's always been a culture where that's been the role of artists historically, right? We've always been the ones to speak out, to subvert those in power. And when you start silencing the artists, as is happening, like I just saw a very, very strange video where somebody's um, like invented a scale to praise the current prime minister whose policies are all off the place. And music was never meant to praise and to butter those already in power. It was always meant to speak truth to power. And it's getting harder, which is why I'm so grateful that you can still stand up and directly address something that's happening in Tennessee, and directly address the issues. And I just hope that it makes a difference, because even to speak out or to sing out is becoming a luxury in India these days.
Something else we were talking about, Shruti, and it's so great to speak to you halfway around the world where technology allows us to do this. We also spoke before the feed went on about, I was talking about protest music here in the United States in the 60s, when Phil Oakes and Dylan and Joan Baez and a whole bunches of other people were singing songs of social protest that were embraced by the mainstream, because truth wasn't so questioned as it is today. If I sing a song like this, and frankly, I've been singing this song for the last 7 years. Change the Laws was written not just yesterday, but 7 years ago, with some help from my friend Roger Tomhave down there in Virginia. And the Waltz for the Tennessee Three is written about a month ago, give or take. But they sound like they're still singing about the same things. And but today, truth has been so compromised that the impact maybe of songs like this are more easily dismissed than I think they were in the 60s, where it seems like, all the kids who were following those great protest singers back then, that was a movement and a voice in a community. And now the truth is so much in question that dismissiveness is a powerful weapon against it. Doesn't mean I'll stop singing these songs, and it's also interesting to sing songs like this. I have songs about gun control, immigration, social justice, and I pretty much sing them at all my concerts. And I know that the concerts are not filled with audiences who agree with everything I say, as hard as that might seem to believe. And so, there are challenges for some people who come to those shows with their friends or loved ones, especially people who've never heard me before. But my goal is that maybe they'll be thinking about something by the end of the night, and they can see that there is warmth and outreach and an open door, which they can come through to have a dialogue at least. I don't really want to confront people as much as offer my perspective, and I'm a strong believer in writing in the first person. So that
Right.
I'm not speaking for somebody else, or as I like to say, I don't we all over everybody. We. And most of the time, I'm able to do that, but it's a challenge. And I'm a baby boomer. My audience is populated with perhaps more baby boomerish people, age-wise, demographically, than not. And many are in agreement with a lot of these things. Not all are. And we're at the point in our lives where we choose between still wanting to be active in these fights, me, or saying, oh, well, that's for the next generation to handle. I've kind of made it to the finish line and whatever. So music is my fountain of youth. So I'm just going to stick with it till they pry the guitar from my cold, dead hands. And that's a gun reference, too. Kevin in D.C. got that one. Yeah, that was Charlton Heston, National Rifle Association member, and that's what he said about his gun. This is my gun. And the bullets are made out of love.
Well, thank you for singing it. And the other thing that you said, which struck me, which was that you said you're speaking your truth. You're not claiming to speak for a universal or the truth, but you're speaking your truth. And thank you for honestly sharing that. And I think I'm going to carry the sort of what is my truth question back into my own life and see how to really articulate, because I think to sing songs that bridge and bring people together, to be able to stand up for my truth, when there might be a room full of people who have some, their own truths, perhaps. I'm going to take that back. So thank you, David, for sharing.
And I remember Barack Obama during one of his presidencies was at a town meeting somewhere where a gentleman stood up. He was taking questions and says, "Mr. President, sir, with all due respect, why do you want to take our guns away?" And Obama's response was so beautiful. And he said, a lot of people have said I said that. I have never said those words, But then he pointed to another historical change in laws that had a big difference. It was the invention of seatbelts. Cars didn't always have seatbelts in them. And Obama, in his response to this man, he said, first of all, I've never said that I want to take your guns away. I think we need to have more stricter controls. But until cars had seatbelts, that was the leading cause of death, one of the leading causes of death in this country. And now, of course, shootings are. And it's just heartbreaking to hear about another shooting every single day. To the point, and it will not happen to me, but there's a desensitization that occurs, when you hear the same story over and over again. It just doesn't, it has the impact, but it gets added to an ocean of similar stories. So it's interesting to see how things are taken out of context and people are misquoted. But if you want to watch something interesting, see if you can Google Barack Obama's response at a town meeting. You'll probably find it easy enough when asked why he was trying to take everybody's guns away. Like that.
Would you like to lead us in those two songs again, so we can?
Sure, you guys game. The Dan Fogelberg song was Old Tennessee, a beautiful waltz, which is why I put that in 3-time. And I haven't tried this yet, but I'm wondering if the songs could be sung at the same time, how that might go. That's a mashup I'm going to experiment in my laboratory here at World Headquarters. But yeah, please, all the words will be in the chat. Please sing along as much at the top of your lungs, any key in particular. And for you guitar players out there or people playing instruments, this is in the key of G. My guitar might sound a little strange. It's in kind of a bizarre tuning, but it's in the anti-gun violence tuning. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. There's your waltz. I used to love an old song by Dan Fogelberg, beautiful old Tennessee. The first line was end of October. Another was wishing you'd come home to me. It painted a picture of sleepy brown woods and a life slow and breezy and warm. But there's something else brewing in old Tennessee, moving backwards in time like a storm. Death once again in the headlines. A school in Nashville, guns drawn. And now Evelyn and Hallie and William and Mike, Cynthia and Kathleen are gone. 3 legislators joined in on the protest, right there in the chambers to see. And all that they got for their common sense outcry was thrown out the door 2 of 3. So instead of a long overdue overhaul on a soul-searching path of concern, the good old folks down there in old Tennessee remind us that nothing's been learned. I used to love an old song by Dan Fogelberg, beautiful old Tennessee. Now I'll be singing a whole different tune, a waltz for the Tennessee 3, a waltz for the Tennessee 3. If anybody tells you there's no politics in guns, and that now is not the time to change the laws, just meet the gaze of those who've lost family or friends, and tell me how we justify the cause. It's well and good to send out loving thoughts and loving prayers, but by now these thoughts and prayers are not enough. All the good intentions and the cries to make a change must be followed up with action and rebuff. So change the laws, change the laws, change the contract, change the clause, change the mind, and change the cause. Change the laws, change the laws. If politicians say do not politicize these things or get caught up in the moment or in haste, I say it's precisely what we need to speak about before another single life is wasted. So change the laws, change the laws, change the contract, change the clause, change the mind, and change the cause. Change the laws, change the laws. I will not be silenced, though the silencers abound. I will not be led by those opposed to common ground. If anybody tells you there's no politics in guns, they're the ones who know that money runs the show. And as long as nothing changes, they'll be happy and content, and they'll do their best to keep the status quo. So change the laws, change the laws, change the contract, change the clause, change the mind, and change the cause. Change the laws, change the laws, change the mind, and change the cause. Change the laws, change the law.
Wonderful. We all send some collective energy back to David for this song, and to all artists really who can speak truth to power and who can sing songs like this that awaken our collective conscience. Really, thank you. Thank you for this song. Thank you for, and may you never have to stay silent. And may you never be. May you always get to sing about this and about anything you want. And
Shouldn't everyone? Shouldn't everyone? And interesting, I'm heading down to Baltimore this weekend. I'm leaving tonight and I'm going to get to the Inner Harbor tomorrow. I'm singing music all weekend at a conference sponsored by this group called the Association for Comprehensive Energy Psychology. It's a bunch of psychotherapists who gather, and this is the first in-person gathering in 4 years, and I've played at their conference many times, where these very innovative psychotherapists use a whole bunch of different alternative modalities around energy. The energy you speak of, when we get together, even on Zoom or especially in person, to create something more than just the sum of the molecules that are in the room. There's something bigger that happens. So I get to play music, and I'm going to learn a lot from these people who are working with energy to unpeel the layers of the onion, if you would, and work on ways energetically and with music and lots of other ways to heal the self, the community, the planet, the universe.
As I would say in India, like inshallah, may it come to be, may it be so. Thank you for the music and for your continued commitment. Like people have said it in the chat, Susan has said it. Thank you for a very long commitment to speak out for justice and truth through your music. Thank you for being here.
Such a pleasure. And I look to hopefully see some of you out there somewhere. I've started traveling again, and it's a pleasure to see you. Going to Scotland and Ireland on June 10th for my tours, and then rafting in Idaho in August. There's still a few spots left, you campers. I know you're out there, and we're going to sing around the campfire every night, me and two of my ringer musician buddies who are encyclopedias of campfire songs. It's going to be epic and off the grid. So if you want to have an adventure, meet us in Idaho, and just send me an email with anything. I don't follow the chat when I do the daily Antidote song, and I know some people ask me questions, but if you'd like me to answer them, send me an email at davidrothmusic@gmail.com, and I will get to all of them, I promise. If not today, the next couple days. So if there's anything you want to know about, it's the Salmon River, the main fork of the Salmon River. And I'm going to bring a knife and a spoon, too, so we'll have complete cutlery while we're camping under the biggest stars you've ever seen. So,
thank you, David, and to everyone on Facebook. And thank you for being here. May you have a wonderful, blessed day.
Jaden, thank you for the tech. Jaden, thank you again for helping pull this whole thing together, as you always do. I don't know if you wanted to get into word edgewise. We've been doing a lot of yapping back and forth, but we didn't mean to exclude you from the conversation.
No, you all were perfect, and I was just so happy to be able to listen to you speak. So thank you for today. Yeah.
And hi, Joe, wherever you are out there.
I'm just going to say a quick bye to everyone in the room. So goodbye, Kevin and Bob and Mabel and the Bears and Deli and Pauline and Kathy and Sheila and James Harkless and Susan and Anne and Carolyn. And bye, Luda and Jamie and Steve and Michelle and Sarah and Nancy and Susan Miller and Cricket. And goodbye, Annette and Linda and Gary and Sandy and Hoda and Kathy and Laurie and Karen. And goodbye, Dan and Aloysius and Ruth and Clive and Kate and Jane and Storm and Sally. And goodbye, Jill and Bonnie and Nicola and the Curly Tops and Kate and Tussie and Kevin and Arlene and Nancy and Cat Cox. And goodbye to Dick and Kathy and Carolyn and Moon and Melinda and everyone who I may have missed out. Have a beautiful, blessed day. And thank you for being here. Thank you, David, once more. And thank you, Jaden, for holding it all together. See you tomorrow.